Gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. So, way back in the dawn of time when I was a hairy-legged young apprentice, the management in the workshop would send us apprentices off for useless tasks. All the other firms in the neighbourhood were aware of them, so everyone was in on the game, and I guess apart from the ones that did do harm, no harm was done. You'd be sent off to get a left-handed screwdriver or a sky hook or a can of black and white striped paint, that kind of thing. My favourite was a long wait. Why that was a favourite was because I lived not too far away from the workshop, so I could skive off home for an hour or two, and when I went back to work they couldn't get me into trouble because it was them that sent me off to begin with. A long wait is what I've just endured. So in the last video I assembled the cylinder head, and there was actually a second part of that video which is where I put it onto the block, torqued it up, and that was going to be great. A couple of things happened. One, a couple of the bolts felt a bit soft. I wasn't happy with them, so I ended up taking the cylinder head back off. The second thing I found was when I went to set the valve clearances I couldn't. One of the rockers was just a bit funny. I don't know why I hadn't pulled them apart earlier or noticed it, but turned out one of the rocker shafts was very badly worn. I don't know if you can see that. And every time I tried to adjust the valve clearances it would move a bit and the valve clearance would be all over the show. So I thought, I can leave it like that, but in reality you can't leave it like that. So I pulled it down, thought that would be easy. Send away for another one. Of course, like everything these days, they're on back order. I waited and waited. In the end I gave up waiting and enlisted help from an engineer friend of my alloy welder Linton. He knew a guy who would do a superb job. Fortunately, it turned out that guy was moving workshops and one thing led to another. He ended up making a new shaft, but it's taken a long time. I picked it up in the weekend and put the rocker block back together. Yay! So now we can go back to what we were doing about 4 months ago, put the cylinder head on. Can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I'm using a German Otto head gasket, which is supposed to be the bee's knees for the Ariel Square 4. The earlier motors had a thing about blowing head gaskets, not so much a later one, but it's still worth spending the extra money and replacing the standard head gasket with an Otto one. I've also put a little bit of sealant around the push rod area. So it's a 2/2 gasket, both halves go on, and then it's a matter of putting the cylinder head on. Now, the 4 studs that go down, they were the ones that started to pull when I was putting I was starting to do up the nuts, which I wasn't happy with. So now they've had thread inserts put in them, so that should be good as gold. Probably the critical thing at this point is putting the head on around the right way. I've marked, I'm going to try and drop it. This one here is number 1, this is number 1 on the engine, so the head is going to go on that way. Going to take a bit of jiggery pokery to get everything lined up and ease the thing down, so I'll cut the video here. We'll come back to it in a couple of minutes when the head is sitting on, and we'll look at the torquing of the nuts, which is very interesting on these given how critical they are with head gaskets. It's critical because some of the nuts you cannot get at with a socket or even a ring spanner. So, okay, putting the head back on went on reasonably easily, quite surprisingly. So I put the head on, put the rocker blocks on. These are a bit of a trick because we've got head studs go down under this loop. This loop is an oil feed, so there's 2 feeds. Feed for this side of the head comes in the back. It goes into this rocker, lubricates the rocker shaft, goes over here, lubricates that rocker shaft, and exits. Same with the other one. The feed goes in here, that one first, goes over, does that one. It's got these guys are head studs. These are just retaining for the rocker block. So replace the studs on here. Put some anti-galling lotion on these are stainless studs, just so we can tie them up. Threads are okay. The main head ones, there's a little spacer which you can't see because it conveniently turned the head around. It looks a bit like that. They fit under the head, under the nut. So the stud and the nut are stainless steel. The little spacers I've used are mild steel. There's a reason for that, and it's about the expansion of the different expansion rates of steel, and it's designed to keep the head gasket at a constant torque. Back to that thing about blowing head gaskets. With the auto gasket, you've got a little complex chart on the order that we do up the torque of the head studs, and we've got a table for which stud has which torque, and the idea is that when they're all done per the book, when the engine is hot, you have a constant 28 foot-pound across all the studs. So we've got the nuts that I cannot get to with my socket, so I can't torque them with my torque wrench. Some of them I can, some of them I can't. So we've got to improvise here. And by the power of math, we can work out how much pull we need on a spanner to equate what you're getting of a torque wrench. So that's the spanner length from centre to centre, divided by 12, and then divide that figure by the foot-pounds that you need. So for example, if you've got a 9-inch spanner and you want 18 foot-pound, so 9-inch divided by 12 is 0.75, 18 for the foot-pound divided by 0.75 is 24 pound. So if that was what you're doing, you get a little spring balance like that, and you know that if you want to achieve 18 foot-pound of torque with a 9-inch spanner, you pull on that for 24 pound, and that is your torque. So that is what I'm having to do. It seems a bit ludicrous when they've gone to all the trouble of being very, very particular about whether one is 23 foot-pound and one is 25 foot-pound, etc. And then you've got some that you've got to go a little bit off the reservation to do, but there you go. I'm going to do them all in 3 stages. First one, I'll just do 10 pound to get a bit of weight on all of them. Then I'll go through by my chart, and I've actually done it in Excel to make it easier for me to figure out what I need for which stud. Then we'll go through. So quick demo, I've done these guys already, just off camera, just to prove the math, a bit of tinkering about, and the math is correct. So happy with that. So next one is with my torque wrench. I set that to 10 pounds. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 are the first ones. 5 and 6 are the 2 in the middle. So we'll do them next. Feels a lot nicer to do with a torque wrench. Then we do 7, 8, 9, 10, which are these corners. 7, 8, 9, 10. Ah. 11, 12, 13 and 14 are underneath. So these are ones that we need to do with that. So this is a 6.5-inch spanner, so do the math, and I need to pull 18 pounds on the spanner. 10, 11, 12, I'll try and turn it around, you might be able to see that, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Right, do the other side is next. I'll turn the camera off for this because I'm going to be on the road and people will complain. Then I'll go around the rest of them. As I said, I'll do it in three stages. Do 10 pound to start with. There's a sequence for the second one and a sequence for the third one, which we'll go through. Yeah, I don't think you need to see me do that on camera. I'm showing you what I'm doing. Let me cut out of here and I will come back once these are torqued and we can start looking at the tappet settings. Header's now torqued down per the schedule, which I've put somewhere. For the pattern on the Otto head gasket and my calculations for the foot pounds or just pounds pull on the spanner length. That was surprisingly stressful. I certainly trust a torque wrench. Now to finish with it, take the tension off because that's how you should store them. I certainly trust the torque wrench more than I was comfortable pulling on a digital fish scale hang on the end of a spanner, but again, trust the math, they should all be okay. So getting very close now. Setting the tapper clearance is the next job. Now this is a Mark II engine, but the camshaft is actually a Mark I camshaft. So tappets clearance on these are a worryingly 1 thou for both inlet and exhaust. So I'll set them at that to begin with, and I'll check it again when it's hot and see what it feels like. The Mark II with the Mark II cam is I think 6 and 8 thou, which seems a bit more realistic to me, but hey, that's what the book says. So I'm not really sure with the firing order 1, 2, 3, 4 what the right sequence would be. So first round I'm just going to take them both inlet and exhaust off lift, and I'll set them, and then I'll go around and check them again with what we used to call 1 up, 1 down. So when the exhaust is on full extension, we know that the inlet has to be closed, and vice versa. We'll go around and put the inlet right down and we know the exhaust will have to be closed. So the flimsiest feeler gauge, which I don't want to break. Be about there. Apologies to anybody offended that I'm doing this with the old adjuster. I do not have a spanner small enough to fit that little head. We'll check that. A little loose, I think. A little bit of a tweak. It's still a little bit loose. Though to be honest, at 1 thou, I'm kind of okay with it being a bit loose. Perfect. And that was the exhaust. Now we do inlet the same. Again, when you do it, the nut, it moves it a little bit. Happy with that. So that's number one, they both got, you can feel it. One there isn't very much. I can feel it's number two, very much the same. We'll give it a couple of rotations over, and then I'll go and recheck in one up, one down, just to make sure. But so far, it's looking good. So I'll run around and do that. We'll come back and put the exhaust manifolds on and put the rocker covers on. And it's starting to look like we might put it in the frame and fire it up. Bit of a teaser to finish with today. So went back through the tablet settings as I was doing when I jumped off before. Took a couple of times through to get them to settle down and be where they should be. They've come up alright. Put the rocker boxes on. Put the manifolds on, and got a throw pipe on just to see how it looks. It looks pretty damn fine in my book. What else have I been doing? I've cleaned up the threads and redone the studs for the inlet manifold. I've got a oil feed I need to put in on the back of the head before I put the manifold on, so he's not going on quite yet. And we'll put the distributor in, set the ignition timing and be ready to go back in the bike. So hopefully it won't be as long till the next video, but I'm pretty sure I've said that about 3 times now. I have got another little issue that cropped up when I was putting the rockers on, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that yet, so I don't want to talk about it. It's time for a beer. Thank you very much. See you all again next time.